Plumber dies on the job. What went wrong? Guys, this is something I never want to talk about. And this is why we talk about safety each and every day.
As the Kenner officials worked an emergency operation to save a plumber trapped under a home. All of this happened in Kenner on Kentucky Avenue. WDSU reporter Jasmine Franklin is there. And Jasmine, what happened?
When I was in the union, I used to go into an office trailer early on superintendent meeting days. The reason being, there was a poster across from me. It showed this young kid, kind of blonde curly hair, wrapped up in a towel, sitting on a beach. And the message below it said, "How do you tell a 5-year-old that daddy will never come home again?" Now, I don't know if this young man had any children, but really what I want to talk about today is the fact that we as company owners, we as plumbers need to look at what we're doing and how we're doing it. Plumbers die under houses every year, and this is something that should not happen. People ask me all the time, they're like, "Roger, how do you tunnel up under houses and do this kind of work?" And we do it very carefully. We have dig crews that come out that understand what it takes for us to get in and out safely. I've never felt uncomfortable or unsafe crawling into any of the ditches that we've had dug. We dig our ditches about 3 feet wide. Now, that's enough room for me and the biggest plumber that's ever worked for me to crawl back and forth in there. We've never had a problem like that. So there's plenty of room. Now, we've got actually a ditch open out behind the outhouse right now. It's a tunnel up under the house that I won't get in. It filled up with water, the sides chafed off, and we just need to get it backfilled. We also dug under the front, and I climbed in there and took care of what needed to be done. But it didn't chafe off. We didn't let it fill with water. We got in there quick and did the work. So as a plumber, you've got to understand what's the right thing and what's the wrong thing to do. So I'm going to stick on my headphones. I'm going to go ahead and play this video where they talk about it. And then I'm going to talk about this a little bit more.
Gina, the Kenner Fire Department says a plumber was working underneath a home when mud and water collapsed around him, leaving him trapped.
She said one of the workers was stuck underneath the house.
This neighbor, who did not want to be identified, lives near the house under repairs.
And she had 2 fans running, and she said that they had the whole house was full of water.
She says she recently went to check on her elderly neighbor that lives inside this home on Kentucky.
Okay, so guys, if you look at this, they look like they're a pretty decent sized company. And guys, this is not the one that it was, but if you look at this, you've already got your ditch not dug out well here. And I don't know, and it may be the angle. Look, I'm not saying anything bad. That hole could be 3 feet from here over. It doesn't look like it's quite that far, but maybe so. And then maybe it goes down deep and they just dug this out too to lay the hoses in. I don't know, but there's another ditch under a house, it looks like. Yeah, so that's the 3 that they got. So let's go back to the video, but you see that, and anytime you see this where plumber dies on the job, it's not a good thing.
The pipes must have busted from underneath the house because her whole entire house was nothing but water.
Kenner fire leaders say Peterson Plumbing Company crews were tunneling underneath.
Right there. Okay, under slab plumbing specialists. So guys, they do this. They apparently do this often. They tunnel. We do it here in Texas. We do it all the time. People think we're crazy for doing it. But guys, if you're going to do work like this, you've got to make sure your holes are dug right. And I'm not saying it wasn't. If there was a bunch of water and that's what caused it to slough off, that's one thing. But as a plumber, you've got to understand when you get under a house and those walls are wet like that, that changes your composition of your soil. And it's something you need to be very, very careful about, because the last thing you want is what happened and that to go sloughing off. And then you've got a problem.
Underneath the house over the last few days. Just before 4 p.m. Friday, emergency crews were called to the home for a rescue.
When we arrived, all that crews had found was that victim was only his head was exposed at that time.
KFD says when they arrived, they found one victim trapped underneath the house. The plumber was reportedly working when mud and water collapsed around him, leaving the victim trapped. Kenner Fire Department leaders say the victim was pronounced deceased on scene.
They had been tunneling for the last couple of days. They were approximately tunneled about 60 feet.
Now, and guys, here's something else to think about too. Said that they had tunneled in 60 feet. Now, one thing that we used to do is when we went in so many feet, we had to have an egress. We had to make sure that there's another way out. And if you're 60 feet, I mean, you're probably getting close to the back of the house. Why not have another tunnel? Come in from the other side, create another entrance and another exit. And this breaks my
The
heart.
Kenner Fire Department says about 5 other plumbers were working on the house when the accident happened. It took fire crews nearly 90 minutes to remove the victim from underneath the house.
Anytime you go underneath a house, it is very dangerous, especially, if you're having a tunnel in the house, you have a plumbing problem, so things are going to be wet. Things are leaking all over the place.
The exact cause of death has not been released yet. Some neighbors think the victim may have suffocated.
We've been here at least 4 or 5 hours, and they did say that the man was deceased, and that's about it, but we still don't know if he got crushed.
The Kenner Fire Department says the house is not at risk of collapsing. Tonight, the incident remains under investigation. Reporting live in Kenner.
Okay, number one, a house isn't going to collapse. I know that she's thinking of the homeowner there, and I think that's great. We always had an engineering firm come out, look at our tunnels. Once we dug up under a house, we wanted them to make sure that, we did good. And one of the engineer companies literally told me, says, Roger, I don't care if you dig a tunnel from the front to the back, as long as you don't go over, and I think he said 5 feet wide, you're never going to cause a problem. The structural concrete above it is going to be able to support that. Now, that's why we had an engineering firm involved. We wanted to show them what we had dug, what we had the dig crew dig, and then we wanted to make sure that when we put the dirt back in, it was enough to support the house. So I love that she's thinking about that. But guys, if you're a plumber, if you have any questions or concerns about a tunnel that you're climbing in, stop, ask those questions, ask someone. If you're a homeowner and plumbers are working under your house and there's a leak on the sewer line, don't use the sewer lines. You're going to add more water, actually going to add raw sewage to the area they're working in. Now, we used to do that. We'd ask homeowners, hey, please don't use your sewer. If it was a leak on a water line, we'd turn the water off and tell them, look, I'm sorry, we've got to turn this off until we're done. Because you don't want that down there spraying, creating a wet, muddy area. Normally, when we tunnel under a house, there's no mud. We stop the water flow. We ask them not to use the sewer. We ask them not to turn the water back on. We stop the water flow because we don't want something like this to happen. And our dig crews are really good about keeping it dried out. If it is wet whenever they get in there, they'll dry it out and have it good for us. But guys, if you're a plumber, if you're a plumbing company owner, think about the areas you're putting your people in. As a plumber, think about the areas you're crawling in. How do you tell a 5-year-old, Daddy's never coming home again? It's something you don't want to have to do. So this is something that never should have happened. I hope that it doesn't ever happen again. But unfortunately, I know it's going to. Whatever you're doing today, guys, do it safe and hit it effing hard.